Welcome to Movie Mavericks, the show where we talk smack about movies. I don't know if that's going to be the catchphrase going forward, but for now, that's what it is. And we're here today to count down our top 5 favorite films of 2016. Why did we start this podcast? Because I've been going to a lot of goddamn movies lately. Seriously, I've been seeing 2 movies a week all year long. I don't know how many movies that is. 100 goddamn movies I saw this year. And I needed an outlet to talk about all these gosh darn movies, otherwise it'd be just a goddamn waste of money. So I'm here today with my brother, VlordGTZ. Say hi to the folks, Vlord.
Hi everybody, nice to be here.
Yeah, and we are going to talk about our top 5 favorite films of 2016. Now, not top 5 collectively, top 5 individually. Only reason we're not doing top 10 is because Warren hasn't seen enough movies to make a good enough top 10.
I don't really live in a location now that's really fit for me to see movies regularly.
What a crime. You need to go out to the theaters more.
Yeah, or I need to keep my car near my apartment more. But
that's right. So, we made sure, since we're only talking about 5 movies each, that we would have completely individual lists with no crossover. Like, I know with our Inuyasha retrospective, you remember that, we each had a top 10, but half of those entries were basically the same between us, and it became a mess because we ranked some moments higher than others. Totally avoiding that this time. We are just talking about 5 individual movies that we personally felt were the best or most interesting movies we saw in 2016. So, why don't we introduce ourselves, though, in the context of our experiences as film goers. I'm going to come right out and say that I am not an amazing film expert. I've just been seeing a lot of movies lately, getting into a lot of classics as well as newer stuff, and studying film a lot more diligently than I used to. I took, street classes this year, which were basically centered around watching movies every week, analyzing and criticizing them. So, I guess, just to say, I don't want to go into, my whole list of favorite movies, because that list is constantly changing. I will say, though, that generally I consider my 3 favorite movies to be 12 Angry Men, Persepolis, and Yurusayatsu 2, Beautiful Dreamer. Warun?
yeah, so unlike Sid, I'm not in any film-related or animation-related field. I'm a business major. So I don't really go to see a lot of films, and I'm not an expert in analyzing them at all. I'm more of a casual moviegoer. I see what I can. If there's a big movie coming out, I'll try to see it. But I guess since Sid mentioned his top 3 favorite films, I guess I'll go off and say mine. My top 3 is also 12 Angry Men, then The Wind Rises, and third one I'm not sure about. Let's not talk about the third one then.
Okay, so I went and saw a lot of movies this year. Like I said, I think I've seen I don't know if I really saw 100. I saw at least 50 movies in theaters this year. Most of those new releases, some of them classic releases, had a good time generally with all of them. But even though I went and saw a lot of movies, I wasn't able to see everything. So there's going to be omissions on this list that you may attribute to me not just getting around to it. And I'm going to run off very quickly some movies that I had planned to see, but just haven't gotten the chance to yet. First, Arrival. Heard it was a great sci-fi flick, really different from the usual alien invasion story. Just haven't gotten a chance to see it, but it looks great. Really, I always enjoy Amy Adams' performances, and she seems like she's great in the movie. Trailers always looked interesting to me. Looks like great stuff. Green Room. Now, I know this movie is considered one of the best horror films of the year. The premise is definitely chilling and, definitely would give me the chills. Freaking walking into a bunch of neo-Nazis committing some horrible shit and having to fight off them. That sounds pretty fucked up. So, I'll check that out at some point. Jackie, that's just a movie I heard good things about and I was thinking of going to see. It sounded like a good, historical-based movie. Natalie Portman seems like she's a good fit for the character. character, real life person, Jackie Kennedy, but just haven't got a chance to see it either. The Lobster, another film I know, was very highly received. Had an interesting premise. People, you either get hooked up or you get turned into an animal. I mean...
Damn, that kind of sounds messed up.
Yeah, it sounds messed up. Yeah, Lobster, heard good things. Haven't got into it. Manchester by the Sea. Now, I tried to see this one, but the problem with this one is that even though it's the critical darling, it ranked as number 1 on the AV Club's top 20 films of 2016. Like, no theater is playing it. Like, seriously, the showtimes are so few and far between. This is a critical favorite, but popular favorite, not in the least. So it's really hard to see this one. I'm still trying. Hopefully it'll still be playing by the time I get around to it. Otherwise, I'll need to wait for it to pop up on Netflix or DVD, Blu-ray. But yeah, Manchester by the Sea. Heard it's a phenomenally acted film. Very relevant to the times. But limited release, not playing, not many showtimes.
Yeah, hopefully it gets more if it wins an Oscar or something, which I think it might.
Yeah.
Like, it happened with Birdman, too. Birdman didn't have many showings around holidays, but then after the Oscars, it just resurged up in showtimes. So
hopefully. Moana. Now, that's one that, as an animation major, I'm definitely going to get heavily criticized for not going to see yet. I heard it's a beautiful... Yeah, shame me. But I heard it's a beautiful film. I heard it's got great acting, like great character animation. You know, I actually went to behind the scenes, like pre-screening before the movie came out. You know, Pixar came to the School of Visual Arts, my school. You know, they showed us some clips from the movies, some concept art, some changes, like how they changed the chicken character around. You know, they showed us some cool scenes. Like, the movie looked really good from what I've seen of it from that special screening. Well, I haven't seen the full movie yet. I haven't gotten a chance to. Surprisingly, I haven't seen it been playing that often in theaters, honestly. Like, even on its initial release, like, I was checking my local theaters back in New York. I have 3 usual hangout theaters: the Village East Cinema, Regal Union Square Station 14, Cinepolis Chelsea. Like, none of them were really playing Moana, which was completely surprising to me. I guess I could have tried AMC Empire, but I don't even know if they're still doing enough showtimes for that anymore. So
yeah, Moana seems to not be having a lot of showtimes now. I'm not sure if that's attributed to not doing, like, super well, but...
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it did well, because generally it was a critically well-received movie. People really enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, the water effects, from what I've seen, are just absolutely amazing. Yeah. They upped their game at Disney again. Like, obviously, considering my field, I have to go see that movie at some point, but unfortunately, just circumstances haven't aligned. Queen of Katwa. That's the new Mira film. Looked, really great. Obviously, I have had, like, years of experience as a chess player. So just on that premise alone, it intrigued me. And it seemed like it was going to be a great film. And it was very well received. But again, it wasn't a popular favorite, even though it was critically well received. So it was out of theaters very quickly, and circumstances just didn't align. Storks. Now, that's a movie that, out of all the ones I'm mentioning, isn't probably going to be on a lot of people's top favorite lists, because it wasn't critically well received, but popular reception just from critics that I like Brad Jones, Doug Walker. From those critics, like, they said it was a really funny movie, like, great slapstick, and its sound did very appealing to me, totally in my case. Like, I was really interested in seeing that movie from the trailers. But again, just stars did not align. I wasn't able to get to a theater that was playing it. Unfortunately. That's a movie I really want to see, though. I think, that those kind of movies, kind of like the Illumination movies, like, they aren't, like, critically well received because they aren't trying to say anything, really. They don't really have a message that the critics can latch onto and say, this is what this movie is about. They're just fun times. But I think those movies are very valuable, and a good funny movie is a good funny movie. And even if the critics don't appreciate that, I certainly do. And then finally, last one I'm mentioning here, the one that all the anime fans are going to criticize me for not having on my list, Your Name.
Boo! Boo!
Shut up, it isn't on your list
Boo!
either.
Doesn't matter. You have to respect Makoto Shinkai's work.
What? How much of Makoto Shinkai's work have you seen?
Absolutely nothing besides, Actually, I saw a little bit of 5 centimeters per second, but that's it.
You have no leg to stand on, then.
I know.
Yeah, so, actually, I've not seen Your Name, even though I'm sure everyone has found a way to see it because internet. Yeah. I have not seen it because Funimation is going to put out theatrical screenings for the film next year, legally, and I might as well wait for those. And I have no interest in watching it from ripped camera recordings.
Or the guy who leaked his screener copy.
Or the guy who leaked his streamer copy. I'd rather watch the proper film in theaters as it's meant to be seen. Now, I know it has been playing in LA briefly. Hasn't been playing in New York, though. So, I have to wait until it plays in New York. But I will see Your Name. Might make my movies of 2017 list. Based on kind of the qualifiers I'm having for this list, 2016. But, yeah, Your Name. I know it's probably amazing. I know that. Not seen it yet because it hasn't officially come out here in a wide capacity.
Aren't you also forgetting Silent Voice?
Oh yeah, I'm also forgetting A Silent Voice. Yeah, that same deal with that one, even though I don't know if it's gonna come out here.
Yeah, who knows? It's not even licensed yet. But yeah, Silent Voice and Your Name seem to be the big 2016 anime films, though.
Yeah.
At every film festival, whenever they're choosing the best film, it always just comes down to Your Name and Silent Voice. And Silent Voice just loses just by a few votes every time.
And that's at least very promising for that film. And as a huge fan of that manga is top 5 for me. That makes me very happy and excited to see that film when it finally comes out here legally. Yeah. Hopefully it will, because the manga was well received over here. So
I'm sure it will at some point. Maybe not in theaters, but I'm sure Funimation or someone is going to license that at some point and release it on home video.
Yeah. Speaking of anime films, totally forgot, Boy and the Beast. That came out here as well this year.
You didn't see Boy and the Beast?
No, I didn't get a chance to see it because I went to Oaxaca, Mexico during the time that I could have seen it. So, no chance to have seen it yet.
Well, I saw Boy and the Beast. It was a really good film. Not my favorite Hosoda film, but it's really good. I'd recommend it. It's not on my top 5, but it's a good film.
Yeah, and then just to name 2 others that I probably will get around to. Well, I know I'm going to get around to this one. One Piece Film Gold. That's coming out next month. Totally going to see that. Pretty excited since Stronghold and Film Team Z were super good. Really looking forward to Film Gold. Looks really awesome. And also, eventually I'm obviously going to get around to this Detective Conan movie 20, Darkest Nightmare. I mean, what?
Yes, Darkest Nightmare. The one where they troll about Rum's identity.
Yeah, but it's a movie with a black organization. I gotta watch that at some point.
Yeah, I guess. But my big problem with those movies is that they always, troll, these big revelations that are gonna happen. But they never actually happen.
Okay, well, that basically covers the movies that I plan to see this year, just haven't gotten around to yet. Do you have any others to add?
No, not really. I mean, you did mention Keanu.
I saw Keanu.
Oh, you did see Keanu?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What did you think of Keanu?
Keanu was freaking hilarious. That was probably my favorite comedy film, pure comedy film of the year.
Yeah, I watched it on HBO a few weeks ago while I was cramming for exams. It was really funny.
Yeah, darn funny. That's a movie that I want to see again because I think I'd still get the same amount of belly laughs the second time around. That was a total treat, total surprise. I was not expecting to laugh and love that movie as much as I did.
Yeah.
Really great comedy. Definitely check that one out. Not in my top 5, but
yeah, same.
Great movie. So now we're ready to do our top 5 movies of 2016 individually. Why don't you start, since I just went on about all these movies that I haven't seen yet, and it's 10 of them. So.
Yeah, so my number 5 is Star Wars Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah, so Rogue One, coming into it, I wasn't expecting much. I knew it was going to be about them finding the plans for the Death Star. It takes place between episodes 3 and 4. But it impressed me. It actually got me kind of invested in the characters. And it helped assuage some of the problems I had with episode 4 that are kind of just affected due to its age. Like the fact that the Death Star has such this dumb vulnerability inside it where you just like shoot this one area and it just will completely blow up. And the film actually justifies why that like exploit is there in the Death Star, which I really liked, because it kind of makes the film feel less dumb in that way. Even though I think that maybe they could have at least... Empire could have tried to patch up the Death Star before the rebels came.
Well, they didn't have a chance. That was the thing about the movie, is that it led right into episode 4, and no one knew that there was this flaw in the Death Star other than the two scientist guys who worked on it, and both of them died, so they weren't able to pass information on.
Well, yeah, that's a good point, but once they saw that they were aiming for that point in the Death Star, you'd think that they'd at least heighten up the security a bit more. Cause...
Well, I don't even think they knew that the rebels knew about the Death Star. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Actually they do, because they knew Darth Vader went after
Yeah, Darth
Leia.
Vader went after Leia, so if they knew this, they took the structure disc. So...
yeah, but they would have security, but then, there was this whole fight over the Death Star. Like, most of the people who raided the Death Star did kind of die,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I don't think there's any plot holes in that regard. Yeah, Rogue One, that's a very controversial movie among, I think, Star Wars fans. At least critically, I've seen opinions range from, meh, it was okay, to this is a boring, pointless movie that is full of characters that are completely unmemorable and had no reason to exist and kind of felt anti-Star Wars. And what would you say to those assertions?
I'd say that, yeah, it is unnecessary. We didn't really need a film explaining how they got the Death Star plans. But at the same time, the fact that they do give, like, a justification for the exploit in the Death Star, and at least some background on why that exists, I kind of respect it for that. The characters, I can kind of understand not, like, really getting them, but I found them pretty good. The robot character, I forget his name, was like C2 something?
K2.
Yeah, K2. K2 was, I thought, was really funny, and then, like, just the cast, like, you can at least, like, sympathize with them and their problems. I'm not sure if, like, they're, like, super amazing characters, but I at least, like, cared a little bit when they died. And beyond that, like, yeah, I've heard problems about, like, Leia being CG and stuff in the film.
You didn't even notice that Tarkin and Leia were CG until I told you, and you were like...
Yeah, I think I was honestly just not paying a lot of attention to those scenes, maybe, but it didn't really bother me. And even when I rewatched the, like, clips of them, the CG's not terrible. It looks a bit jarring, maybe, but from how they lighted it and stuff, and just how brief their scenes are, it's not that big of a problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the criticisms of Rogue One are kind of overblown. I did not find CG Tarkin or Leia distracting. They look pretty believable in the scenes. I think you really have to nitpick in order to, like, really criticize them. Because, like I said, you didn't even notice it until I told you. I feel like a lot of the audience who are just casually watching this movie, who aren't aware that, the actor who plays Tarkin is dead.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people who don't maybe know that, I think that they're not going to be distracted by it at all. Like, they might not even realize. Like, it's pretty great CG. I mean, it's as close to real as we can get it at this point.
Yeah.
I don't think it looked uncanny about it at all. I mean, I didn't find it a problem. As someone knowing that this was going to be CG going into it, like, I was expecting, like, Uncanny Valley. I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was bad at all, actually, so I don't understand that criticism. Characters were hit and miss. Like, they didn't have a lot of depth, but I did care when they died and stuff. So, I was emotionally invested in most of them. K2 was awesome, though. I was saddest for him that he died, because he was a character I would have liked to see in other movies. And as far as other criticisms go, like leaning on fan nostalgia or whatever, yeah, I didn't find the cameos too obtrusive. Like, there's a bunch of them in there that, I don't think you'd pay any mind to if you're not a hardcore Star Wars fan, and I don't think they called attention to it that much. Like, the R2-D2 and C-3PO scene, I didn't find that jarring at all. It makes sense that they were there and they were preparing to leave. Like, I think that was actually good setup for the final scene with Leia. Yeah, basically, all the problems people have with this movie, I felt, were overblown based on all the reviews I had been listening to and, like, reading going into this. But I will say that, at the same metric, a lot of the praise for certain aspects of this movie I felt were overblown. And specifically, I'm talking about Darth Vader's fight scene, which everyone was calling, oh, this is one of the best Vader moments ever. Oh, this is one of the best Vader fight scenes ever. Oh, this was so awesome. This is the best scene in the movie.
It's so brief. It's
so brief, like, there's just not enough to latch on to. Sure, he kills a bunch of stormtroopers, big deal. It doesn't really do anything that cool. Like, he cuts through some guys, he turns back someone's blast laser back at him. Whoop-de-doo. I did like Vader generally in the movie. I liked his scene with the villain. I don't remember his name. He started with a K. But I liked his scene with the movie where it's like, don't choke on your own ambition. I thought that was a pretty good one-liner from Vader. I'm interested. I think they can do good stuff with Vader in his own standalone movie, which they have to have on the docket at some point, because it's such a missed opportunity if they don't. As much as people like that scene, I think that making a full-blown, like, horror action film with Vader as, like, the villain protagonist has a lot of potential. I don't see the great big deal about that one scene in this movie, though. It didn't really impress me. And I guess part of that is inflated expectations, because everyone that I had been reading reviews of and listening to reviews of was praising it so highly, but it didn't really leave much of an impression on me. Well, I'm also just not that hardcore of a Star Wars fan. It's not something I obsess over. So a lot of these small little things that people liked and didn't like about this movie didn't really appeal to me in the same way. But Rogue One I thought was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like it as much as The Force Awakens, but among the movies this year, I'd say it made my top 5.
Alright, so I'll talk about my number 5. And now this is actually a movie we just saw today. Like, literally, at the day we're recording this. And I don't know if I'd actually put it in my top 5 if we were doing, like, a top 10 each of between us. Like, it might be in the lower end of the top 10. But because we're only doing a top 5, and because I want to talk about this movie, I'm putting it on here. It's a Bollywood Hindi film, a biographical sports drama film, directed by Nitesh Tiwari, Dangal, which, if you don't know your Hindi, literally translates to wrestling competition. It is based on a true story about Mahavir Singh Pokdat, who was once an accomplished wrestler who then retired, and then raises his two eldest daughters, Geeta and Babita, to become professional class wrestlers. And the film follows their journey from when they start training to when Geeta wins a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. And so this was an interesting movie because it is exceptionally popular. We tried to see this movie a couple days ago on Christmas when we went, and it was all the screenings were sold out. All the screenings for that day pretty much were sold out.
Yeah,
like we could not get seats that day. It is exceptionally popular with the Indian community. Like, it was really well received, and like it's doing extremely well. So obviously that got me curious.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also might have to do with the fact that we live in a fairly dense Indian community.
Yeah.
And the theater that we have nearby is like I'd say one of the best theaters in like our area of Minnesota. So that probably is a big reason why it was selling out so fast. But even then, it's kind of surprising because they do frequent Indian Hindi films around our area often, but none of them like actually sell out at all. Most of them usually are half full, fourth full, never completely full and booked for weeks on end.
Yeah, this film is exceptionally successful. At least as far as I can tell based on our area and how pretty much all the screenings were sold out. Even today, when we went, the theater was full. There's good reason for that because it's a very good movie, very well-made movie, and it hits a lot of strong emotional beats while also having a great commentary and feminist, commentary on, kind of gender politics in India and and like women's sports in India and really internationally as it can be applied.
Yeah.
As well as just a good like family story about a father, who sees the best in his children and pushes them hard, partly for his sake, partly to fulfill his dreams, but also because he knows they have the potential to do great things and put their great talents to use. And I think the film really succeeds at, making the characters sympathetic and making their journey feel really affecting and powerful. At the end of the movie, when Geeta wins the gold medal at the Commonwealth Games, they play the Indian national anthem, and everyone in our theater, except Warun and I, because we're lazy bastards, stood up and for the Indian national anthem. It had kind of that effect. Like, it was that kind of powerful. There's a lot of nationalist pride for India in this film, and I think it really carries through. But there's also, of course, just great emotional center between this family and between these characters. Not to say that I think this movie is necessarily perfect, because it does adapt a real life story to, conform to kind of a sports movie formula. So they throw in some things, to spice up the dramatic tension. I don't think Mahavir Phogat was really as disappointed as to get daughters instead of sons as the character was portrayed in the film. There was no villainous coach, of course. That was obviously an invention, and I'm pretty sure that Mahavir was not locked in a closet while Geeta was in the final match.
Yeah, the film definitely suffers from, I'd say, sports movie tropes and also regular Bollywood tropes. Random musical numbers, dramatic moments.
What I have to say about the musical numbers, though, is that they weren't intrusive, I felt. They were used mainly as montage songs. But no one was, like, getting up and dancing and, like, singing by themselves. Like, none of the characters were doing that. All the songs were played to montages. They were never full stage performances by people in the film.
Yeah, that's one thing I could really respect about it. Is, like, some Bollywood films will just randomly break into song in the most inappropriate scenes, very serious moments, climactic moments where it shouldn't fit at all. But this film at least does it respectfully. It does it during montage moments instead of just in the middle of the plot.
Yeah, and I think that goes a long way into helping the movie feel real. Like, if all the characters were getting up and singing and dancing, I think that would have that would have kind of created this world as a fantasy. But because they're used as montage songs, and because there's such an attention to detail in portraying the rural community where they grew up, and, their transformation, their growth and journey, and, like, kind of, acknowledging some real life barriers that they had, and challenges that they had in their journey to become professional wrestlers, female wrestlers. I think that the movie really succeeds in capturing a sense of realism, even though there's clearly like very movie-ish things that obviously did not happen in real life.
Yeah.
But were done in the film to increase, the dramatic tension and whatever. And, it's a movie. You gotta make, like, those kind of changes sometimes. It probably would have been boring if, Gita had won her match 2-0 in the final round, like she did in real life, where in the film, it was really tense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure in real life, the big climax for her whole career in the Commonwealth Games was that semifinal round where she was actually against the world champion, and then the finals were very much a victory lap.
Yeah.
So, of course, the movie did, of course, make it seem like it was going to be closer.
And obviously, they made the coach and her final opponent very cartoonishly evil.
Well, we don't like those Australians in India. They keep winning the Cricket World Cup, stealing all our trophies, all that stuff. We can't like the Australians. They're the real enemy.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting to really get into this movie, get emotionally invested in this movie as much as I was. Especially at the beginning, I thought, I wasn't going to like Mahavir as a character because of his sexist attitude. But once the movie went in the direction of him training his daughters into becoming female wrestlers, and once it hit upon that note in that by doing this, he's giving them more of a future than what most girls in India at that time would have, being married off at age 14 just to, bear children and do household chores. That he's giving them a career where they can choose their own futures, choose like their own mates, like have a career. He really cares about them, and like that day do the best, not just to fulfill his dream, but for themselves and their future. I think that was a very powerful message that I think is maybe still relevant, at least in India today.
Yeah, I mean, India has become more progressive, obviously, now, but there's still a lot of that old thought culture in there about women and about just how they should act and behave in their lives. And I think this is definitely very relevant for the time that it takes place, but it's still very much relevant now for women in India.
Yeah. It's somewhat hard to recommend this movie to general audiences, American audiences, because it's such an Indian film, and it's about, an Indian culture so much. But it is just a really good sports film, and a really, emotionally involving sports film. I didn't shed tears, but I was like, come on. When Gita was in her matches. I was definitely involved with the characters as portrayed in the film, and, I was on the edge of my seat, when Gita was in these tense matches. This was just a really effective sports film that got the entire audience involved. Again, they stood up for the national anthem, and there wasn't applause at the end necessarily, but again, I think that a lot of people were walking out of the theater really enjoying it and really going wow at it. I think,
yeah, I mean, it did a really good job of making those wrestling matches engaging, on the edge of your seat, and even though you know that once they get to the actual Commonwealth Games, Gita's gonna win, but it's still just so exciting to see these matches, because it makes it seem like it's gonna be these super last second close call matches, and sometimes they are, and it's just really cool.
Mm-hmm. So Dangal was a great movie. If you have an appreciation or familiarity with Indian culture, and are just interested in a movie with a really strong feminist message, or just a really great sports film, I would recommend it if you can find it in theater playing near you. And so how about we move on to our number 4, Warren?
Yes, my number 4 pick technically this came out in 2015 in Japan, but I'm counting it on this list because it did come out dubbed in theaters in the US this year, and that film is Miss Hokusai. Now, Miss Hokusai is based on a very old Weekly Manga Sunday title that came out in the 80s, 1983, and this was adapted by Keiichi Hara and Production IG, and I wasn't expecting, like, a ton from this movie. I mean, I'm always interested in watching whatever anime films are screening nearby, because those are always fun to go to. But I was really surprised at how great it was. Like, I'm not familiar with the source material. I am aware that it is very much, each chapter is episodic. It's very much an episodic story. But the whole narrative of it was very well done. It kind of goes through this whole thing of this master called Hokusai and his kind of job as a calligrapher and his daughter, and kind of their whole like life and dealing with like their regular jobs and then supernatural things that come up kind of related to Japanese mythology. And then there's also, of course, overreaching narrative of the Hokusai's daughter, other younger daughter, who is very much sick, and it's kind of going through her struggle of being blind. And I felt all these intertwined very well, and they did a very good job of taking this episodic manga and making it work into an overreaching 90-minute film. And I really like that about it.
Yeah, it was just... Miss Hokusai was a really well-made film. A good character study of this woman, Oe, I believe.
Yeah, Oe.
Yeah, so it was a really good character study. It wasn't like... didn't have like a really defined narrative in terms of like an act structure.
Yeah.
What binds the movie together is Oe and her father's relationship with Oe's younger sister, who is blind, and this is like a complete invention of Hara for the film. Like the events of that subplot don't happen in the manga, from like what I've heard. So it's a really interesting invention for the film that kind of gives it this like emotional center, as well as a little bit of like a structural backdrop for the other stuff that happens in the film, as well as a catalyst for, you know, Oe's emotional development in the film. And I really did find those scenes affecting, and I obviously I didn't cry, but like it is very sad when Oe's sister dies in the film. But really good character study, like really interesting kind of learn very loosely about Hokusai and his daughter Oe. Like a lot of the stuff about Oe is invented in the manga and film because there really wasn't much documented about her. But it's kind of interesting, like kind of like historical musing is like what the kind of character she was, what kind of person she was. And it's very interesting in that respect, and learning more a little bit about Hokusai's major works, and kind of adding this fantasy element, which was also just, you know, spiced the movie up a little bit. And it had some really like fantastic visuals in it too, like with the ink dragon, you know, that is created. Like that's
yeah, and it did a really good job of like implementing these like more like supernatural Japanese mythology elements and kind of make them very engaging. Yeah, overall, it was a very cool film. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad G-Kids is bringing over a lot of these kind of more interesting anime films that are coming out now. And I hope they continue to do so, because I love seeing them.
Yeah, Miss Hokusai was a really great film. I got a poster for it downstairs.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I'm really interested in seeing more Keiichi Hara films. I'm glad the G-Kids is bringing films like this over, because they're really interesting and worth seeing. So, my number 4 is the Brazilian-French film Aquarius, which stars Sonia Braga as Clara, who is basically this elderly woman who's the last resident of this apartment building, and the construction company, like, who owns the building, is, like, trying to get her to leave so that they can tear the building down and replace it with a new, you know, building. And so the film was about her just kind of making this last stand against the construction company, defying them, because she clings to this place because it is her home. Like, it's where her family has lived for generations. It's like the home where she raised her kids. She lived with her husband. And this film is very much strong. Its strongest point is as a character study of Clara, of like what makes her tick, and also kind of how steadfast she is to stay in this place and not waver no matter all the shitty things that Diego, the chief designer of the building, tries to do to get her to leave, including throwing an orgy party in the room above her.
What is this, Platinum End?
No, seriously, they throw a fucking orgy party in the room above her. And it's like, they play loud music, and first she's like, oh, damn it. And she tries to block out their loud music by playing, her own music, but it doesn't work. And then eventually she goes up to see what's going on, and then she says, oh shit, it's an orgy. And it's a great scene. She looks, and then she turns back, and then she looks again, and she kind of gets turned on by it. So she calls up like a male prostitute that her friend, usually hires. And so he comes over and they fool around for a bit. It's like,
oh my god. This sounds like a very interesting film, Sid.
Oh, it's a French film, and they're very, they're pretty loose about sex.
Yeah.
But, this was really interesting. The film does always have this edge of sensuality. That's an aspect of the film. But it's also just about changing times and remaining steadfast to not change on the values and what you believe in. And there's this very strong sense of community and family, binding Clara and her maid, Lajan, and as well, as her family, her nephew, Thomas, her sons and daughter. They all rally behind her and help her. It's also a controversial film because it is very, it's discussing kind of Brazilian social issues, and it's going against the corruption deep-seated in the government of Brazil, and how connected that is with private companies that are affecting Brazil politically. Because the construction company, the bad guys in this film, they pretty much own the media, and they basically have close ties with the government. So Clara is going up against big powers. She, under normal circumstances, would have no ability to fight against. But it's because she's just so steadfast and so resolved. Like, she endures so much to stay where she is and cling to her home that means so much to her. And eventually, she does find an ally willing to help her to expose some secrets of this company that they wouldn't want to get out. And also, because she showed kindness to just the normal working class Brazilians, like some workers who were laid off from the company later come and tell her about something that Diego did, which what he did was he put in a freaking nest of termites in the top floor of a construction building.
What the?
And it's destroying the building from the inside out. And so at the end of the film, it's just great. We don't really see how the whole situation is resolved, but she goes and confronts Diego and his father, I believe, who runs the construction company, and she shows them like the papers, like the files that she has against them, and then like last scene of the movie is like her like breaking open the suitcase with the termite nest in it, and it's like all over the construction company guy's desk. And they're just staring at it like all the termites fluttering around the desk. Like, it was just like a great fuck yeah movie. You go, Clara. And yeah, I really got invested in this movie, and this character study was really beautifully shot film. It was talking a lot of big ideas, really great social commentary. Definitely a well-recommended film, I would say. I don't know if a lot of people will get to go see it, because, you know, it is a limited release film. It's obviously a foreign film, so yeah. This film, it was really good, and I thought it was a great character study. Had a lot of great things about it. Really well acted, really well shot. Just beautiful all around.
Yeah, I mean, if I ever get the chance, I might try to hunt this film down. It seems interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's a shame it probably won't get an Oscar nod because of the controversy around it for its political messages. It's a very subversive film, so that's caused some backlash in its native country, Brazil, against it. Right-wing advocates are like telling people to boycott the film because because of its anti-corruption, this is not how the Brazilian democracy should be. The Brazilian democratic government is corrupt. All those messages. So yeah, it is. So it's definitely it's a controversial film, but I think that's a film that needed to be made, and is exposing some very important things that should be addressed about Brazilian politics. So really interesting stuff. Definitely gets a recommendation from me. And so your number 3, Lord.
Yes, my number 3 is Shin Godzilla. Now, I haven't been too well versed in the Godzilla whole franchise for a very long time. The last time I remember watching a Godzilla film was in India when they were airing Godzilla versus Megalon, I think. Mm-hmm. And even that I barely remember anything about it. But I was interested in Shin Godzilla mainly because it's directed and the screenplay was written by Hideki Anno, of course, from Evangelion fame. I decided, hey, I might not remember a lot about Godzilla, but I like Anno's work. He hasn't been working on Evangelion 4.0 for God knows how long. Let's see something he's worked on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I decided to go see this film at a nearby theater, and it was pleasantly really good. This pretty much, for those who don't know, it's pretty much kind of a reboot of the Godzilla kind of whole franchise. It pretty much goes back to the beginning, Godzilla coming out of the ocean, slowly rising, and then through absorbing radiation, all this stuff, he's slowly evolving into the upright Godzilla that we know, destroying everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was really good, and kind of there's kind of goes back and forth between this Godzilla, of course, destroying stuff, and the whole government trying to figure out how to deal with Godzilla. How can they get rid of this monster from killing everything? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Overall, it's kind of what you'd expect from a Godzilla film, but at the same time, it's so well done. And I think there's one scene that definitely kind of stays in my mind. It's when they kind of are taking all these military forces up against Godzilla and thinking we can just bomb him and somehow kill him. And pretty much it all kind of backfires. And he's absorbing all this radiation, and then it shoots it at the entire city and wipes it completely out. Just damn, Godzilla means business.
Yeah. I mean, this was an incredibly interesting film. It is so overtly political. Anno is really making a really harsh critique of Japanese politics and bureaucracy. And we see in the movie all the steps it takes to do a single thing, all the people that need to be reported to, and all the dilly-dallying, and the movie's message is very much, okay, these guys at the top, these people who are very set in these old ways and this old way of doing things are not prepared to handle this kind of situation. The young, the outcasts, the people who would normally could be considered outcasts in the political system. They need to take charge. They need to find these creative solutions, work together and not separately. They all need to work together. They need to work coordinated to combat this giant threat. And this film is very much, this is what Japan can do when we're all working together, when we're all on the same page, and when we believe in ourselves as a nation, and we don't just rely on foreign powers to bail us out. Like, there's this whole conflict with, the American government, what the UN wants to do, as opposed to what Japan wants to do. Because if the UN had their way, Japan would have been
nuclear bombed
again, and that's obviously not a trauma that Japan wants to go through again. And it was up to Japan to solve this problem by themselves and really save themselves and use their own power, their own strength to save themselves. And this was a really strong political message movie. Like, there's just so many layers to it that, 2 months after seeing it, I can't just immediately dig up all the various scenes and all the critiques that was going on in that movie.
Yeah.
But, obviously, it was just, huge, this brought Godzilla back to its roots as a metaphor for nuclear power. Because Godzilla's destruction in this movie, it is not, all the people in the theater, they were, getting up and cheering and whatever, for when Godzilla was destroying the series. I wasn't, because that was a horrifying scene.
Wait, people were cheering in your theater?
People were cheering for
That's kind of messed up.
It is messed up. That's the point. What Godzilla is, what he represents, and what he's doing is messed up. Because he's an allegory, of course, for nuclear power and for this large-scale devastation that man created, and it's up to man to find a solution to put an end to it, cure their own problem. And yeah, they're dealing with the ramifications of this devastating power created by man, using solutions that, of course, man devised. It brings Godzilla back to his roots. It's like a really clever update of the original Godzilla film. I think that makes it probably the best Godzilla film since the original, because of how smart and thoughtful and powerful its political message really is. Whereas all the other Godzilla films besides the original and this are kind of schlocky. I think that the movie was well paced as well. Ano's editing. You'll recognize it immediately. It's the style he used. It's in Evangelion. In fact, there was Evangelion sounding music in this film.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but so the editing was so good. Even though there was a lot of talking scenes, the cuts were really great. The camera moved in great ways. There were great shots, and it was always keeping your attention. It was keeping you engaged, and it was all moving along at a great pace. So even though there was a lot of talking scenes, you were just I at least was just hooked in to the action and everything that was happening in that film.
Oh yeah.
And people are I heard when I was coming out of the theater, this chick was complaining to her boyfriend, yeah, Godzilla wasn't even in the movie all that much. And I was like, have you seen Godzilla movies?
I don't think they have. A lot of these people who go to Godzilla films, I think nowadays, a lot of people who would go to a Godzilla film probably haven't seen the original Godzilla.
They haven't seen even the other Godzilla films in general.
Yeah.
Even the popular perception of Godzilla is
it's gonna be an hour and 30 minutes of Godzilla just walking around destroying things, which it never is. Even in the super heavy team up Godzilla films.
There was one Godzilla film where he fought everyone that was that, but generally Godzilla films are just the people, the human characters for most of it, and then every now and again Godzilla shows up.
I mean, the whole point is that you're supposed to see Godzilla as this formidable monster.
Yeah.
He's on screen the entire time. Are you really going to be scared at that point?
And he is a monster. When you first see him, you don't even think it's Godzilla, because
it's just
different.
What is this, some random sea monster?
His evolution is just so chilling and horrifying. That is how a monster affected by radiation if it was going to evolve into something like Godzilla would evolve and transform. And it is like really horrifying to watch as it happens.
Yeah.
I think that Godzilla in this movie has such a great presence, even in the scenes he's not in, that I don't think that the fact that you go long stretches without seeing Godzilla is a problem, because his presence, his threat is always felt so powerfully from beginning to end in the film.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend all day picking apart a work by Hideki Anno.
Yeah.
Because there's, all his stuff, he always makes everything very intricate, very deep, and so forth. But, yeah, if you ever have the chance to go watch this film, or I'm sure Funimation's going to release it on home media next year.
I mean, this is a film I want to watch again for sure.
Oh, yeah. It was so good. But, yeah, so whenever you get the chance to watch this, watch it. It definitely makes up for the fact that Evangelion 4.0 still isn't out.
Yeah, it puts that fucking Godzilla film from 2014, the US one, to shame.
Oh god, that one looks so bad.
Movie. Fuck that movie. This is Godzilla, goddammit. Anno, you beautiful bastard, make more Godzilla films
Anno,
like
after
this.
you finish 4.0, which hopefully will be soon.
Yeah,
fingers crossed. Go just make Godzilla for the rest of your life. I don't care. I love this film.
Make Godzilla versus Evangelion. I think
oh my god, that would be amazing. Oh, I would so watch that.
Yeah. So, Shin Godzilla, fucking awesome. Amazing movie. Best Godzilla since the original by far. Okay, so my number 3. The French-Danish animated film Long Way North, which debuted in Annecy last year, but didn't get a wide release until this year. And this is just a beautifully made movie, like amazing cell animation, great color design, like absolutely gorgeous to look at, and its depiction of these icy landscapes is just so chilling, and like you feel the environment, you feel the coldness and the chill, and like everything like these characters are enduring, and like you feel the pain of the characters when they're getting hurt, when the captain, when he is like on the cliff and like the rope is like pulling on his leg, it's just so painful, and there's just some great understated character acting and animation in this movie, like that's just absolutely wonderful to watch. It's a very simple story when you boil it down to its just general parts. I didn't even explain the premise. The basic premise is this girl Sasha, her grandfather was a great explorer, and so he went to map out this area a long time ago, but he didn't ever return, and so people thought, his ship was lost to sea, and his reputation was kind of sullied, but she figures out that they were looking for him in the wrong place, and he actually went in a different direction than people were searching for him for. So she runs away from home, and she teams up with this group of sailors, and they go out exploring for her grandfather's ship, and they get stranded on this icy continent, and so they have to traverse the area looking for the ship, while also dealing with very limited rations, this very stark environment, and very little hope of being rescued. Like their only hope is to find her grandfather's ship, and hope is still working. And also the captain is, who is like the brother of the vice captain, and I don't think he's related to her love interest, but it's very demoralizing to the crew that he's injured, and like he is like very close to death's door, like so there's a really time crunch, in order to find the ship, in order to get him healthy and safe again too. So it's a really simple story, but it's really hits all the emotions powerfully. It's beautifully animated with some just incredible cinematography. One of the final scenes of the movie, like this vision sequence where Sasha is seeing her grandfather like in this vision in this like great snowstorm blizzard. That's just an amazingly beautiful scene. Just a beautiful film, one of the best animated films of the year that, of course, no one has seen because it wasn't wide release.
Yeah, I actually was really interested in seeing this film, but I don't think any place nearby was screening it. Maybe there were some screenings in Minneapolis, but it was probably around the time that I had midterms, and I wouldn't have been able to go.
Yeah, it's such a shame, but bless you, Shout Factory, for giving this like a limited release in as many theaters as you could, because this was a really genuinely cinematic movie that was just absolutely beautiful, start to finish. Really loved it. Hope to have it on home video as soon as they put it out, because I want to watch it again. Like, great experience. I don't know if you should watch it dubbed or subbed. I watched it, original French, and because I compared the trailers, and it felt to me like the dub acting was more stilted. But
what I've noticed with a lot of French animated stuff is that the English dubs tend to not be like very good.
I don't think we need to talk much about Wakfu.
Oh, that Wakfu dub! I really wanted it to be good.
I think we all did, but at least we got it on Blu-ray over here.
And the French still sounds great.
French still sounds great, yeah.
We just don't talk about that English dub. It never happened.
Yeah, just like the English dub for Years of Yatsura.
Oh God.
That's not it. No, the Wakfu dub isn't bad. And Near's the Long Way North dub, I'm sure. Not even close. But yeah, I guess you watch it in French because I think I didn't watch the full movie in English, but based on the trailer and based on what I've seen of the French film, the French acting is just league above. But yeah, great that it was dubbed, great that it was given wide release, and sad because I was like the only person in the theater when I went to go see it.
When did you go see it?
I saw it on a Monday. It was like 10 o'clock, so maybe it makes sense. But I was like the only person there. But yeah, just beautiful film. Definitely get it if you can grab it on home video when it comes out. Definitely give it a shot. Maybe they'll put it up on YouTube for rental, hopefully, or Netflix. So again, big recommendation for me. Now our number 2 is Warren.
Yes, my number 2 is Deadpool. Now, I'm not super familiar with American comics in general. I have read a few Deadpool comics, so I knew what to expect going into this. Deadpool is very much kind of this break the fourth wall character. Pretty much a lot of his comics are him just fucking around.
Yeah.
There's comics where he literally just kills other Marvel characters and all that.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. But yeah, I had decent expectations for this. I think what was maybe preventing me from, I'd say, being super, super pumped for it was the fact that it's not technically an MCU film. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, outside of MCU, I feel there's less of a quality guard of sorts. There's still really bad MCU films, look at Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, or the Thor films.
Yeah.
But I'd say, MCU tends to be a bit more consistent, if a bit generic at times, but consistent. But this film was just absolutely fantastic. Deadpool is just, such an enjoyable character. It's very much an action comedy. Deadpool's breaking the fourth wall all the time. He's getting into these crazy, bloody scenes. And then there's just all these funny moments where, referencing Voltron, of all things, and him and his ugly face. And even just making, these subtle nudges to MCU, even though Deadpool's not part of MCU. And yeah, just, this is pretty much what I would want from a superhero film. It just got everything right, very much. And this would be probably my number 1 film if it wasn't for a certain MCU film that we will get into later that I love for very specific reasons. But, yeah, overall, this is just such a great film. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd highly recommend it. I'm sure, most people have seen Deadpool by now, if they're interested in, superhero films.
Deadpool is my favorite Marvel character. My favorite, his comics are some of my favorite. And he's not just really funny in, like, how he's used, but he does have a deep character in of himself that I think a lot of people just think Deadpool is just this jokey, like, break the fourth wall character. He has a lot more to him than that, more depth of character behind him than that. I think the movie captures both the comedic fun side of Deadpool as well as the more serious side underlying him very well, and creates a very three-dimensional, fully realized version of Deadpool that I was very glad to see on screen. The movie in general was just very funny, but also had this good, I don't know if it was that emotional side, but it had a good character.
It was sort of heartfelt.
It was heartfelt, the relationship between Deadpool and his girlfriend, and I really liked their relationship.
If I recall, this also came out around Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
right?
it was perfect. It was actually a Valentine's Day movie because, like, it's actually good.
It was the perfect love story.
It is.
It even had the kinky sex and everything.
Yeah.
We got to see Deadpool and his girlfriend have weird sex on Thanksgiving while eating mashed potatoes.
And nice strap-on sex on National Women's Day.
Yeah, you gotta have that.
But yeah. Deadpool was pretty hilarious. I really was glad to see it come out so well as a big-time fan of the character. I am really excited for Deadpool and Cable film coming out later.
That's going to be amazing.
Deadpool, that was such a treat. I don't know if it's my favorite comic book superhero movie. It's definitely the funniest. It doesn't have any competition in that regard, but yeah, Deadpool. Probably second best superhero movie to come out this year at the very least, and one of the best superhero movies, at least top 10 that I think have been made.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's at least very unique in the sense that I don't think any other superhero comic book film has balanced comedy and action and stayed true to the heart of its source material quite as well as it still has. So, okay, my number 2. So, I talk a bunch about, political stuff and bunch of great cinematography and visuals and whatever that I thought was just expert. So I guess I might have given off the impression of I have these very sneaky high taste because I don't have any super popular mainstream movies on here. So to dissuade that notion, I'm going to add my number 2. I have a movie that even though it came out in 2015, I have to put on this list. Because, like Miss Hokusai, it came out dubbed in theaters in the U.S. this year, so I can count it. But also, it is by far, the most fun I had seeing a movie this year. And that movie is Girls on Panza, the film! If you don't know what Girls on Panzer is, fucking watch it. It's on Crunchyroll, and it's freaking amazing. Basically, it's about it's like what the title says. It's girls and tanks. Girls are in the school club where they fight each other with tanks. And it's awesome because the team in the show, in this movie, it's like a giant crossover show because all the girls are they're from different, they'd be stars of their own show if they were in any other series, because you have the normal main 5 who are all into tanks and stuff, but then you also have the team who are all obsessed with military history. You have the team all obsessed with racing. You have the fucking volleyball team who still wear their volleyball costumes while they're in the tank, and they're like, oh man, one day we're going to restore a volleyball club competing in Seishida, which is what they call the tank fighting. And you have the hall monitors, who are all 3 identical characters who were the hall monitors, and now they're their own team in the overall high school Seishida tank fighting team. And it's you have this really weird eclectic bunch of characters who all feel as groups they could be the stars of their own show. All together, and it's just insane because they also they fight I mean, the motif of the show is like, okay, the main characters, they represent Japanese tankery, right? And so, they fight against, so in the show they fight against, like, a British school, whose whole thing is that they're British. They fight against a Italian school, whose whole thing that they're Italian, and their leader is named Anchovy. And then they fight they have, their main rivals, which, the main character's sister, belongs to Miho, the sister of the main character, Maho's belongs to, is based on Germany. My favorite of the teams is the Russian team, who is led by this little girl called Katsuya. Like, he has this big stoic, wife in command. And in the movie, also, she has a third in command, and there's just this amazing running joke in the movie where the second command and the third in command are, like, speaking to each other in Russian, and Katsuya's, like, saying, "Don't fucking talk in Russian! You don't fucking talk in Russian on the battlefield!" And it's always I love all the characters in the show, and obviously I was really looking forward to the movie, and oh my god, the movie. Oh... Oh,
I think Sid just orgasmed.
I have to, because not only was the animation fucking godly in this movie, but okay, so the movie takes the tank battles in the show and all the awesome strategizing, all the awesome like stunts and craziness in the show, and ups it up not to 11, but to fucking 21.
Huh.
That's like
damn.
That's double. The point is that it takes something that was like already fucking awesome and doubles the awesomeness, like just amazingly. And like, oh my god, like the movie opens up with like this 20-minute tank battle between oh my god, there's this hilarious new character called the Chiaton team, whose whole thing is that they are so fucking stupid, they don't have strategy, all they do is fucking charge, and they get fucking annihilated immediately. And I fucking love them, because eventually, and later in the movie, they realize, hey, wait, we always fucking lose, because we just charge at the enemy, so why don't we try new strategy? And they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so what should we do? Let's charge them! But then they eventually get their act together, and then they kind of use strategy. But of course, they're still really inept at it. So, it's fucking hilarious what they do. Chiaton team was a great addition. I'm really, they got up here more. But yeah, so the open movie begins with a 20-minute battle, pretty much, between Ori and Chiaton against the British and Russian teams, and it's just freaking awesome because you want to see like a team battle between these guys. But then, of course, like the big battle of the movie, which takes like an entire hour, is literally an hour of the fucking tank fighting, and it's fucking amazing. Maybe more than an hour, honestly, like because it's just oh my god, like it does what you wanted this movie to do. It does. As a fan of the show, what you wanted to see is that it brings all the teams from the show and they combine them into one giant super team to go against the enemy in the movie, which is this university level team. Like the characters in the show are high school students. So all the characters from the show all join forces as one super team to combat the enemies in the movie, and it's just fucking glorious. Like they fight in this amazing battlefield where there's like landmines going off. Like bombs, and then eventually the battle goes into a freaking amusement park, and you have tanks like on roller coasters fighting each other on roller coasters, and then on carousels. And one of my favorite moments is like when they shoot off the Ferris wheel and have it charge against the other tanks. Like they shoot the Ferris wheel and it rolls down the hill. And it, like, smashes other things. It's just amazing. Oh, my God. It's like, this movie. This movie is not deep. I don't think...
Yeah, it doesn't sound deep.
It's not deep.
But, yeah.
But it's one of the most fucking awesome things that you'll ever watch in your life. Because, okay, it's just... First of all, it's just freaking hilarious. Like, I love all the characters in the show because they're all just so funny and memorable, and like the jokes in the movie just fly. I love all the character actions, like all the melodrama that's just intentionally played up to be so ridiculous, to be funny. It's just amazing. But also just the tank battles. The tank, I love the strategy. I also just love how crazy it gets. Like, you have, they have this giant, like, the enemy team has this giant tank, right? Like, that shoots just huge, like, 35 million missiles. Like, the missiles are, like, this big. And they're, like, shooting them across the battlefield to crush the main character's team, right? So, what they do is, like, the student council team, they, team up with the Finnish team. And they organize a strategy where they use the railroad and they charge through the railroad and they like go up on another tank. They use another tank as a ramp. And they go up on the other tank and their tank like flies like straight into the giant cannon thing, and like they jam themselves in the giant cannon thing and they blow it up, and it's just, oh my god!
This just sounds insane.
It is insane and it's fucking amazing. I love Girls in Panzer. I love this movie. In case you can't tell by how freaking jazzed I am talking about it, and like how I'm orgasming all over the mic talking about it. This was like this was like one of my favorite things. I saw this in theaters this year. That's why it's number 2, because it's like the most fun, by far the most fun I had in theaters this year. Not my favorite movie of the year because it's number 2, but like nothing compares to like the adrenaline, like the humor, the Sakuga animation. And that's something for you Sakuga nerds out there. But you check out Girls in Panzer, the movie. It's pretty Sakuga. Yeah, so just, oh my god, Girls in Panzer, the movie, just awesome.
Yeah, I still haven't checked out Girls in Panzer. But I'll definitely be looking forward to this movie when I do.
Yeah, I gotta get this. I gotta get this a Blu-ray when it comes out.
I'm sure Sentai will release it at some point.
Well, and I'm getting that because I need to watch this movie again because it's too awesome. Yeah, watch Girls in Panzer and then watch this movie. I'm so looking forward to the 6-part theatrical movies that are coming soon. Because, oh my god, how are they gonna top this movie? Oh my god, I can't wait! I just want to see more of these characters, though, because I just love these characters, too. But, with that, let's try and top that discussion, that one-sided discussion, by talking about our favorite movies of the year. Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get, like, super hyper-jazzed with my final pick, as Sid did with his second, but let's give this a shot. My number 1 film of this year is Captain America: Civil War.
Uh-huh.
Now, Deadpool was easily the most fun I had at the theater this year, but Civil War gave me something that I had wanted for a very, very long time. To see Iron Man get beaten the shit out of.
What? You really hate Iron Man?
Yeah, for background here, I think Iron Man 1 is a decent film. It's a good introductory film. Iron Man 2 is trash. I think most people agree Iron Man 2 is not a good film. But yeah, I hate it, Iron Man 2. And, I know people hate the Thor movies. I'd rather watch the Thor movies again than watch Iron Man 2. Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is it's not a terrible film. It's not as bad as Iron Man 2. But it's still pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to rewatch Iron Man 3 anytime soon. But yeah, I just really don't like MCU's interpretation of Tony Stark and Iron Man. I just can't find him likable. And I don't know, I just really don't like his movies. But yeah, so going into Captain America: Civil War, this is the Avengers 2 we should have gotten. This pretty much brings in all the MCU characters that we had so far, and introduces, of course, Black Panther and Spider-Man, who are both, so far from what it seems, are going to be great characters and great additions to MCU. Spider-Man Homecoming seems like it's going to be a very good film. But in any case, it just brings them all together, and they are kind of fighting each other over this whole idea of whether we should be controlling what the Avengers do, or should we be giving them freedom? Is it really the safe thing to do to give the Avengers these free reign over what they do? Are they really a danger to society more than kind of protection?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have Tony Stark on the whole kind of the Avengers are dangerous. We need to kind of put a lock and chain on them. While Captain America, he feels that the Avengers shouldn't be restricted at all, or at least restricted to the point where they're pretty much being under the wing of the government and only acting when the government sees fit. And of course, it ends up adding in the plot of Bucky, the Winter Soldier, and kind of him being on the run as a criminal. And of course, Captain America wants to still protect him because he was his friend. And this all kind of drives up to the point where Captain America and Iron Man are going face to face in this kind of intense battle. And it's just such a great fight. Like, it kind of goes back and forth, and eventually kind of Captain America just takes his shield, jams it into Iron Man's suit, and it just completely powers down. And then right as Captain America is walking away, Tony Stark is all like, "That shield isn't yours. My dad made that shield. Give it back." And Captain America just like looks back at him, holds up the shield, and just drops it on the floor and just walks away. It's just such an amazing scene on so many levels. I mean, one, it's just showing like Captain America is not bound by what Tony Stark is saying, and it's just like, for me as a person who doesn't really care about Iron Man, it's just so satisfying to see him getting just like completely, utterly annihilated, just him going to a breaking point. And even for like MCU as a whole, I feel it's just such a great turning point movie. Age of Ultron had some cool ideas, but it wasn't really impactful as much as this movie. This movie has impacted, I feel, the overall events of MCU far more than Age of Ultron really did. And yeah, it's just such a... I don't even know how to describe it anymore. It's just like so satisfying to see this. Like, I was expecting Captain America Civil War to be pretty good. Like, I feel that the Captain America films have been probably the best MCU films. But this just completely threw it out of the park. Might be my favorite MCU film out of everything. And hopefully something can top that, but damn, this is hard to beat. Civil War might stay my favorite MCU film in the near future.
Civil War is also my... okay, Winter Soldier is still, I think, the best MCU film. But Civil War is a good second, I would say. I think that Civil War was just a great, like... It felt more like the Avengers 2 that we should have gotten.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, the stakes and the conflict. And I think that the movie had some just great character development for not just Tony and Cap, but for Black Widow,
Scarlet Witch especially.
The
Vision, of course.
Vision. Like, pretty much everyone involved got something out of that movie, and I think that was great. I like the way the movie ends with, Cap and Cap going his separate ways with his own adventures, leaving Tony, but like Tony still has a way to reach him if he needs to, and this was a good place to bring Tony's character and kind of it's definitely like, I think, a very powerful like kind of break in that friendship between Tony and Cap. Like I think that I think that definitely you got that they were friends, and that this is definitely kind of a bit of a heartbreaking thing that they find themselves on opposite sides and are like so against each other, but like they kind of reach an understanding by the end. And this is also just also a good place to bring Tony's character, because he finds the guy who kills his parents, Bucky, and he goes ballistic as you would expect him to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also I think that the villain of the movie, it's kind of a waste that they called him Baron Zemo, because Baron Zemo have been much cooler. Well, they didn't call him Baron Zemo. I don't even know if he was a Baron. He was Zemo, though.
Yeah.
I think it was a waste to call him that. He should have just been some new character, I think, because he didn't really have any resemblance to Zemo from the comics.
For what I recall of, like, the very little I've seen of Zemo and other interpretations, the Zemo we saw in this film is far different from those.
But he was really interesting as an antagonistic force. Like, all his goal was just to destroy the trust in the Avengers and between the members of the Avengers, really. Like,
I mean, very much he was kind of just an ordinary person. Is kind of showing, like, even without superpowers, there are these enemies that can make or break the Avengers.
Yeah, he wanted to hurt them hard because, and this is a very sympathetic angle, because of the destruction they caused, he lost his family.
Yeah.
So, he's obviously in the wrong for what he did, but you have a better understanding of why he went to the lengths he did. Better than most of the MCU villains. Like, he's the kid, like, in personality-wise, he's nothing to speak of, but in terms of concept of character and execution, he's much more interesting than, like, all of the other MCU villains besides Loki.
Yeah, and of course Loki has always had the bad circumstances of being in probably the worst films.
Well, you hate Iron Man.
Yeah, besides Iron Man 1. I think majority of people probably don't like Thor.
I don't know about that, but I don't like the Thor movies at all.
Yeah, though I don't know. For the most part, I usually see the Thor movies at, like, the bottom of people's, like, favorite MCU films.
Yeah, bottom, but I don't think people hate them as much as I do. I just don't like them.
But yeah, I'd say Zemo in Civil War definitely shows that you don't need, like, a super all-powerful villain to really have a good conflict in a superhero film. Because Ultron, let's face it, he was kind of very overpowered. He could, like, create, like, tons of, like, robotic clones of himself and stuff. And Zemo is just very much a regular guy. But he still is... His conflict that he's creating is still a much more engaging narrative than anything in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, definitely. I think Civil War found a good emotional conflict between the characters, and that's what really carried that movie. And it felt... Just like Winter Soldier, it felt like something that changed the status quo, that felt different from, like, the typical MCU formula, as people like to describe. And I think that, like, out of all the MCU, we got two, I think, this year. We got that and Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange was pretty good.
It was pretty good, but, like, Civil War definitely shook things up and, like, affected the status quo and, like, made a difference in the universe more than, I think, Age of Ultron did, like, by far.
Yeah, for sure.
And, like, I'm very much looking forward to the Avengers movie, the next Avengers movie, what are they calling it?
Infinity War?
Infinity War. I'm very much looking forward to that more than I was after Avengers 2 because of Civil War and what it's done in the universe.
Yeah.
So, Civil War, great film, one of the best of the MCU. I think that I like the Winter Soldier just a little bit more overall, because I think that Civil War, I don't know, I just felt like it didn't come together quite as well as Winter Soldier, ultimately, just in certain aspects. But
yeah, that's fair.
I felt that I just suffered from a little bit of an overstuffing problem. Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Civil War.
Civil War. Yeah.
But I think that we all can agree that the fight scene, just between all the heroes, is excellent.
Oh yeah.
And Spider-Man made a very good introduction. So his film next year should be something to look forward to. Yeah, good number one. Mine is, as much as I raved and loved Girls and Panther, their film, in terms of a movie that encapsulated everything I loved about storytelling and animation, and just film, and basically everything I go to the movies, Kubo and the Two Strings encapture that just perfectly. Best Leica film? I think there are some people will say Paranorman is the best, but as far as my tastes go, and as far as my interests go, Kubo and the Two Strings, for me, is their best. I think not only is it just visually beautiful, just godly stunning, like what they did in that movie, the stop motion animation, and like combining that with their effects work, it just looks, they created such an amazing world that looks better than a lot of CG theatrical features, honestly. It just, with Kubo though, like the big thing with it, not only is like how they use the culture, where really interestingly, it's just also what the story is about is that it's a deconstruction of the hero's journey, and like in many respects, and the way it uses the formula of the hero's journey and makes twists and commentary on it. That to me as a storyteller, like, it was just so interesting and just so fascinating, and is a huge part about why I love that movie. But of course, it's just in general just an excellent like film in terms of like just everything. It's got everything that I really enjoy in terms of characters. Like all the characters I really found endearing, and I thought that it captured great moods, like it could transition between comedy and horror and action really well. There were great messages about family and very heartbreaking kind of ending. It's somewhat, in many respects, touching, but also very melancholy ending. It's just a really amazing experience. When I left that theater, I was definitely like speechless. Like, this is a bar that I want to aspire to. It's like, this is a bar that it's like that really is that should be pushing boundaries. I think people should look at this film and like saying, yeah, this is what we need to aspire to do now in terms of stop motion animation. Like, Leica is basically the only pioneer, the big main pioneer of the field. But even outside of stop motion, just in terms of the kind of movies that are being made, the kind of animated features being made, in terms of the kind of messages that they're imbuing in, like, kind of the effects, kind of, and kind of like how everything just fits together in terms of that entire package. I think it really set a new bar that I don't think any other animated feature that came out this year really matched. And for me, it just resonated just so strongly with all my interests, and that's why it's my favorite of the year. And I still think about that song that ending credits, when my guitar gently weeps. Now it's just such a melancholy song that still rings in my head when I think about that movie. It's like just a perfect encapsulation of that tone of that movie. And it's very, I don't know how to compare the success of Leica films generally, because I don't think that they do that well overall. But I think it made enough, at least, to earn a profit, I hope, at the very least.
I think it at the very least made a profit.
At least a margin profit.
Yeah.
But it'd be heartbreaking if this movie didn't at least make a small profit, if they didn't even break even on it, because it was such a beautifully made film. And yeah, I think that this is, for me, this is like his best feature yet, and they just continue topping themselves, and I'm really excited to see what they'll do next. And Yeah, I mean, this is a film again. I want to watch all the films in my top 5. I want to watch again, but of the most films I want to watch again, this is a film I really want to study again because this, to me, was such a perfect encapsulation about the power of storytelling and like the power of family connection. Just all these great ideas and messages that just really resonated with me. Heck, I used it as an example in my of great story structure when I was making an academic storytelling grid while I was working at the Carlson School of Management and designing a storytelling guide for them. So, I mean, this movie also helped me in my work too. So, yeah, just a great film. Definitely go out and see it.
Yeah, this was initially going to be in my top 5, but so that we could have like each one of us could have like a diverse list, I decided to omit it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love this film. Like it's probably, if I were to rearrange my list now, it'd probably be like my 3rd favorite film. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, there's not much for me to say that you haven't already said, but I mean, I'm kind of hoping it wins an Oscar or something, or some sort of award, but yeah, the Academy, as we all know, is
just gonna give it to Finding Dory.
No, they're gonna give it to Zootopia.
It's better than giving it to Finding. I love Finding Dory, actually, but like, Kubo is better.
I mean, let's. They gave it to Frozen instead of The Wind Rises. Honestly. They don't actually watch the films. Let's face it. Any person with a brain knows that The Wind Rises is better than Frozen.
They've been on record saying that they don't watch the films, and many of them have contempt for animated films.
Yeah, I think one of them actually called Princess Kaguya some Chinese shit or something.
Oh.
What is wrong with you people?
Well, Oscars don't matter.
Yeah, the Oscars don't matter.
For animation, especially.
Yeah, they maybe in 20 years or something when we actually have a younger pool of voters in the Academy, maybe things will change and animation can finally get the respect they deserve at the Academy Awards, but right now it's not very bright. It just goes to your Disney or Pixar of the year.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe in 20 years things will change or whatever. But yeah, Kubo and the Two Strings, my pick for Best Animated Feature of the Year and my favorite film of the year. And with that, we've covered our top 5 individual favorite animated films of the year. Collectively, I guess you would call it our top 10, basically. These are the 10 movies between us, we really liked and would recommend to people.
Yeah.
And so, very briefly, to count this off, since we just went over our favorite movies of this year, let's look forward to what we have coming next year. Are there any movies you're excited about in 2017?
I mean, there are a few, I guess. Your Name, obviously. Your Name is something I'm definitely interested in watching. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's technically a 2016 film, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. Let's see, what else? I haven't really thought about this much. You want to start off, Sid?
Yeah, actually, I have a list.
Of course you do. You always have a list.
Okay, so I have 10 that I can. I have a top 10 anticipated movies for next year. These aren't the movies that I expect to be the best, but these are the movies I'm most looking forward to seeing for personal reasons. So number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. That's one of my favorite MCU films, so I'm expecting the second one to be a good time. I think the trailer exactly shows me anything that is particularly exciting, but I think it being good is a safe bet. At number 9, I have Wonder Woman. I know I should give up on the DC films at this point, but
just give up, Sid. It's not worth it. After Batman vs. Superman.
Well, I think Wonder Woman trailer looks good. I think she's long deserved a solo film to herself. I mean, she has the animated feature, but like a theatrical released solo film to herself. And the trailer looks good. Like, none of the trailers for other DC films ever looked good. So at least the trailer for this one looks good. So I'm crossing my fingers. 8, I have Captain Underpants because I was a huge fan of that as a kid. It always baffled me as a kid that Captain Underpants never had a film
or any animated, like,
no animated series. So
yeah,
this to me is like definitely like a fulfillment of a childhood dream of seeing Captain Underpants like on the big screen or just in another media in any form. So I'm really excited. I mean, it's gonna be like childish. I know it's not gonna be a film probably that it's gonna be very lowbrow humor. I'm sure, like very kids, but not general audiences friendly. But still, I'm gonna see this because I loved Captain Underpants, and I mean, I'm just happy that they're finally doing something with the property. 7, I have Takashi Miike's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diners and Unbreakable films. I would be skeptical of a JoJo in live action adaptation, but given Miike's reputation and style, I think that he can pull it off. And yeah, you know, with how well received DIU was, the anime, I think that, and with how much effort, you know, the production crew behind this film has gone into capturing the feel of the part, I think that this film has a reasonable chance of turning out really good, like maybe on par with the Kenshin films.
Yeah, they're filming this in Italy, right?
Yeah, they're filming this in a town in Italy because they felt that looked best like Mario.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Even though it's set in Japan, no Japanese city is going to look like Mario.
Yeah. At 6, I have Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel, because I think that's coming out next year. And
yeah, it's the first one's slated for next year. Who knows if Ufatable's going to stick to that. Yeah. I think a big problem was that the voice actor, the seiyuu that was voices Sakura, was pregnant for a while, so that probably stinted the recording for it at least. Mm. And of course, Ufotable is always working on something. Like they're working on Tales of Zestiria, the X, I think right now. Yeah, they work really hard on their stuff, and their whole motto is like work until you drop. So when it's ready, it's ready. But hopefully it'll be ready. I'm hoping fall of 2017 at the latest.
I've heard good things about the route, and with theatrical quality and pacing, I think that it will serve it well. So I'm really excited for it because I do enjoy the Fate universe. At number 5, I have Pokemon the movie I Choose You. This is a huge nostalgia pandering film, remaking Kanto as a film, but that trailer, when the Zaze Pokemon Master started playing, that was the minute I was sold. And Pokemon lives in the very fiber of my soul. I absolutely love it. So even though I haven't been impressed with the films in the past few years, this one, you know, I think this one has gotten me excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's a remake of like the original Pokemon series.
It's a remake of the Kanto stuff, but it's going to have not going to be completely based on that. It's actually going to tell its own story based on the original stuff.
Huh.
So it'll have a different kind of conclusion, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I watched the trailer for that. I'm cautiously optimistic. Mm-hmm. Like, I know Olam Inc. has done like a very good job with the anime.
TV anime is amazing.
The TV anime for Sun and Moon and X and Y and X, Y, and Z, both, from what I've seen, have both been amazing. So it definitely seems Pokemon's on its A game anime-wise. Mm-hmm. I'm still hoping one day for a Pokemon Adventures TV anime.
As am I.
Who knows if that will ever happen, but yeah.
At number 4, I have Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side of Dimensions. Again, nostalgia bomb, but the animation looks excellent, and, you know, Yugi and Kaiba dueling off again. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Side Dimensions is something I'm excited for, mainly because Kazuki Takahashi, the original mangaka, was involved in writing the film. Mm. So unlike the previous film, like the whole crossover one between GX, 5Ds, and original Yu-Gi-Oh, I wasn't interested in that at all. I still haven't seen it because I just don't care. But this film is one that I definitely want to see. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'll be able to see it in theaters. It all depends on my college schedule and if I can get to the nearest theater in a reasonable amount of time. But somehow I'm going to watch this.
Yeah. Next to have Despicable Me 3. Despicable Me films are all solid fun. I think this one will be no exception. And especially with Trey Parker being the villain. Like, that's going to be great.
Oh, yeah. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
That should be really funny. Fist Fight, I just saw that trailer for that not too long ago. And it wasn't on my radar before because I hadn't heard of it. But like the minute I saw that trailer and saw Charlie Day was the main character, I was like, yep, Charlie Day, awesome. So, I'm a huge Always Sunny fan, and I love Charlie Day as an actor. So, I think this could be a great comedy. Because the last movie I'm looking forward to is Lego Batman movie. Which, the trailer is just amazing. The trailer's hilarious.
I still haven't seen the trailer for that.
What?
No. I thought I'd seen it in a theater, so usually I don't, watch trailers online unless it's something I'm really pumped for or, am aware of, a long period of time before.
Uh-huh.
So I haven't really bothered to, actually look it up. I'm definitely gonna, now watch it after this.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, Lego movie was awesome. Lego Batman was great in it. Lego Batman movie looks really great. I think of all the movies that I'm looking forward to next year, that's the one I know for sure I'm going to really enjoy. And then, of course, I'm also looking forward to Spider-Man Homecoming and Star Wars 8 and whatever. And I'm not the most excited for them necessarily, and not because I think they'll be bad, just because I don't feel passionate enough about them. But I'm gonna watch them. They should be pretty good.
You mentioned quite a few that I'm also interested in. Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel. I mean, beyond what you said, I guess one film I am excited for, which I guess is more of a special than a film, I guess, because it's a pretty short film. But it's Lupin the Third, Goemon Ishikawa's Spray of Blood.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great.
Yeah, so that's a Takashi Koike film. Yeah, so it's done by Takashi Koike, who was the director of Red Line, which, let's face it, probably one of the best animated films ever.
Yeah.
It's just insane. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's gonna continue the whole Fujiko-verse, I guess is how we're calling it now.
Guess so.
The woman called Fujiko Mine, and then very tonally different Jigen's Gravestone. Fujiko Mine is one of my favorite animes of all time. Easily my favorite Lupin series, but Jigen's Gravestone I'm kind of on. It's not I like it, it's really good, but it doesn't really share the same tone as The Woman Called Fujiko Mine. Yeah. But in any case, I love Takashi Koike's other works. I really love his directing style. And yeah, I'm just really interested in seeing where this goes, because there's also the whole Mamo underlying plot that's building up.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there's an actual plan for what they're gonna do with that. I'm assuming they want to make a film for each member of Lupin's group, and then maybe Zenigata, and they'll all be kind of building up to this maybe Mamo remake film or something.
That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, because I mean, after Goemon, we can have Zenigata or Lupin, and then I think like the Jigen's Gravestone film, Mamo's gonna appear at the end, say something sinister. That's how it's gonna end.
He's gonna be like Thanos in the Marvel movies.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the other thing that I'm also really excited for in this is that the film is, of course, going to be focused on Goemon, and let's face it, we don't see a lot of Goemon usually. Lupin Part 1, he barely appears.
Yeah.
And then even in Part 2, even though Part 2 is very much based around group heists, he's still kind of absent a lot of the time. A lot of the time it's Lupin and Jigen, who are doing this heist, and then Fujio gets involved, kind of sabotages it for her own reasons. And Goemon's just in the sideline, or just doing nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, even in The Mystery of Mamo, he literally leaves after his sword breaks. Like, they just write him out.
Yeah.
It's just like... Yeah, I feel Goemon has always been kind of the most underrated member of the team. He's always kind of just there to fill a group of 4, like, requirement when TMS and Monkey Punch feel it's necessary.
Yeah.
So I kind of am happy to see him finally get a bit more of the spotlight. So, yeah, that's something I'm definitely excited to watch. I'm not sure if I highly doubt I'll enjoy it as much as Fujiko Mine. Even Lupin Part 4, which was amazing, still doesn't make me feel the same way as Fujiko Mine. Fujiko Mine is just very much a very unique piece of anime, and I feel television and media in general. But yeah, I just love Lupin as a franchise, so anything Lupin I'll watch, regardless of quality.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Goemon film too. Like, he is probably the most underrated and underutilized member of the Lupin cast, so it's good to see him get the spotlight. And but I think that does it for our inaugural Movie Mavericks episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and hope you liked our lists, or found them interesting at the very least. And yeah, why don't you tell people where they can find you, VlordGTZ?
Yeah, so I don't frequent a ton of places. Usually, I mainly frequent Twitter. So I'm at VlordGTZ on Twitter. So that's probably the best way you can contact me if you ever want to talk about something. If you want to talk about Detective Conan and JoJo, I'm especially up to that because I love those franchises.
Yes, and you're going to be talking about JoJo very soon.
Yeah, there's going to be some fun JoJo stuff coming up on Manga Mavericks and Manga Fights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be on that. So if you like listening to me for some reason, I'm not sure why, but if you like that, then you'll be seeing more of me soon.
And I'm LumRanmaYasha. You can find me on Twitter, my anime list, and Animation Revelation. You can also catch my artwork on Sid Gupta's Awesome Art Arc on Tumblr. I will let you guys know that I am taking an internet hiatus starting pretty soon. I won't be tweeting or posting much until the current school semester is done in May, so I can work on my thesis film and not get distracted. But if you want to contact me, I will still respond to direct messages on Twitter, because that's basically how I communicate in order to set up all the podcast stuff anyway. So if you really need to get in contact with me, you can send me a direct message on Twitter and I'll respond. And yeah, as for the show, you can find us on allcomic.com, where we also do Manga Mavericks and Manga Fights, our manga-centric podcasts. Movie Mavericks as a podcast will probably come out irregularly whenever we get the time. So we're not really on a schedule, but I'm sure that we'll find opportunities to do this again relatively soon. You can, if you enjoyed this episode, send us questions, comments, criticisms below, or send them to mangamavericks@gmail.com, which is basically our central hub for all our Manga Mavericks network podcasts. That's basically what we're calling them. The Manga Mavericks podcast universe. But yeah, you can send them those to mangamavericks@gmail.com. Make sure to like and subscribe to us on iTunes for more episodes, and also just to give us some feedback and let us know how we're doing. Send us any questions at our email too. We'd love to answer questions on the show, as well as movie and topic suggestions if you guys have any. So yeah, thank you for joining us for our inaugural episode, and we'll catch you guys next time.